Welcome to Money Matters. I'm Patty Tawadros from Xercel. I'll be your host today, and my co-host is David Emery.
Hi, how are you?
From the Marital Financial Group. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you today. So I know a little bit about your business, and there's some things that I find super interesting, and that is the whole thing of divorce and college planning.
That's right. Yeah. So I work for the Marital Financial Group. I do divorce and college planning, and what I do on divorce planning is I help clients understand what is an equitable distribution of their marital assets, and help them discover their life financially coming out of divorce. I also help clients with regards to when they have kids that are about ready to go to college. I help them understand avenues to help reduce the costs associated with educating their kids. And what I found is helping these two groups of people, if you kind of fold them over, if you have kids that are in junior high school or high school and you're contemplating divorce, there's a lot of things you can do to help reduce the cost of educating your kids associated with how you structure your divorce.
On both sides?
On both parent side? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, are you
absolutely.
really just more protecting one of the two for saving money?
Well, I would say it's more the family unit from the standpoint, at least in the state of Pennsylvania. The law is you don't have to provide for educating your children.
Are there states where you do?
Some states, yes. There is some laws that you do have to help provide for the cost of college for the kids.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was lucky my parents paid for me and my brother, but that was out of the goodness of their heart.
That's right.
I can't imagine the law enforcing it.
Yeah. So, well, state of Pennsylvania, you don't have to provide for it. So if you're interested in reducing the costs associated with educating your children, then having at least a knowledge of that as you're going through your divorce, looking at that from that perspective, can save thousands of dollars off the cost. I've seen thousands of dollars off the cost of educating kids, their parents going through divorce. So
I get the idea that somebody's considering a divorce and then they contact a lawyer. Do you tend to work with lawyers who might say you need to talk to him as well?
Yeah, our clients come in from all different avenues. I've had clients that are thinking about getting divorced and they want to do some preemptive financial planning around that. That's happened. We get referrals from attorneys that clients are going through divorce. I mean, attorneys are experts in the law. And a lot of times, based on the family's finances and any type of assets they had, a lot of the big areas where we help just the lawyers don't have this, they practice law, they don't practice financial planning. One of the big areas we help is with regards to helping clients understand what the value is on corporate retirement plans and corporate incentive plans, stock options, businesses. How do you split a business when you're getting divorced?
Yeah.
Inheritance, how does that play in? Does it play in? So we help them on all the different facets. We're basically their financial consultant going through divorce. So
I find it really interesting. I'm not married, but I do think about it. I have my own business and my own home and my own retirement account. And
right.
I think if I get married, I probably should talk to somebody like you before that happens so that I know what I'm doing when I'm planning it.
Absolutely. I mean, for a lot of when I help clients, the first point that we talk about is what are the marital assets? And basically the marital assets are from the point you get married to the point you get separated. In that time period, the assets and debts that have been acquired, that's marital, and that's what's talked about on regarding dissolving the marriage. So in your example, you came into a marriage with a business and you came into a marriage with a home and retirement, that's separate property because you brought that into the marriage, but you need to document that.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit. So we're talking about the dissolving of marriages. So tell me a little bit about your new business you started. It has a really neat name, Smoochy Paper.
Yeah, Smoochy Paper. It's wedding invitations, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs. And it touches on this whole industry where people are going online and are using websites like minted.com. And they get their kids' wedding invitations there, or the bride or the groom themselves go and they look and they find stuff they love and they buy it. They get 125 of them in the mail. They send them out to their friends and family. Well, little do they know that their cousin who lives one state over also saw the same exact invitation, fell in love with it as well, got it and mailed it out. And now people are getting duplicates of the same invitation. It's not original. It's boring. It's a competition. Let's face it.
Yeah.
So we help people, I want to say compete better. We help them make things that are really special and custom and all about their relationship. Whether my best friend, when she got married, I did her invitations, and she and her husband, now they rescue dogs. So I made this invitation that was a book, and as you turn the pages, it said, Jessica and Rob have something to tell you. And the next page, we got another dog, and people wouldn't be surprised if they did. And then you turn the next page again, and it said, just kidding. And then you turn one more page, we're getting married. And the next page was the whole story about, when and where and how. And it was something that was really personal.
Right.
And it was so good that one of her guests was a professional framer, took the invitation and took it apart and actually framed it for her as a wedding gift.
Very neat.
And it's still hanging in her house today. So
it sounds very customized.
Yeah.
So
it's super fun.
It sounds like it's not just one consultation. It sounds like you spend quite a lot of time with the clients.
I do. It's a really personal thing, and it just makes me so happy. It's so fun.
I can see it.
Now when people call me and they got the invitation in the mail, because you always mail one to the bride, she'll say, it's so beautiful, I'm going to cry, I love it. And I think, it's so great, because in my corporate business, when people are going to cry, something went really wrong.
I know. That's not a good cry.
No,
usually.
So the other business is a bad cry, and this business is a good cry, and it's fun. It's my creative outlet, and I'm really enjoying it.
So how did you come into that line of work then?
So my dad had this printing business when I was growing up, and he would get these paper samples, and I would go with him to the print shop, and we'd come back with these big books, and I don't know why, but he had samples of wallpaper, and then he would get the wedding invitation books because he did it for his clients. So I just remember looking at these books and thinking, this is so neat.
Wow.
So then I just do it for fun for my friends, and then finally one of my other friends said, why don't you sell your work? And I thought, nobody's going to pay for that. Do you know what it took to do that?
Yeah.
And that's when I discovered what an industry weddings are.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So you local clients, or you have them?
I had some, one in Connecticut, one in DC. It is a very personal experience. I do like to meet with people in person, but I have worked with people that are further away using FedEx, and and I become friends with people. They invite me to their weddings, and
that's great.
Fun. Yeah. So I want to kind of get to it. So we have a question, and I'm going to tell you that I'm terrible with things like this. So the question is from Rachel Robinson in media, and she asks, what do you think about inflation?
What do we think about
What
inflation?
do you think about inflation? What is inflation?
Well, inflation is when things start going up in price. So I guess what I think about inflation is right now we're in a very low inflationary environment. To have inflation go up, you can't really go down too much more. You need to have wages start to rise and economic growth. And if you look back over the handful of years, both of those items have not happened. That's why inflation is quite low, and it really hasn't done much in the recent past. So what do I think about inflation? I think until you see those two different entities starting to move upward, that's when you're going to start to see the rise in inflation.
And that meaning that milk costs more, eggs cost more.
Exactly. Yeah. So until that happens, I don't see a lot happening with inflation until those two different areas start moving up.
And I know this isn't specifically your area, but does that also impact mortgage interest rates?
Mortgage interest rates are tied more toward the 10-year Treasury bill.
Okay.
So when that goes up, that's when you're going to start to see interest rates, home mortgage interest rates go up.
But that's not necessarily anything to do with inflation.
It's tied somewhat to it, but it's really it's when the 10-year Treasury note starts going up. That's when home mortgages, you're going to start seeing them go up.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Good questions.
Yeah. So If you want to send your questions to Money Matters, here's how you do it.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says, Send us your questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
So I'd like to welcome our guest, Steven Suib.
Hi.
From Retirement Safety. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your business, just kind of the overview.
Well, my company is called Preservation Wealth Management. That's my company. We're in King of Prussia, and we are a financial planning retirement firm. That's what we do. We help people that are retired or soon to be retired navigate the next 20, 30 years of being unemployed. So that's pretty much what we do.
So your niche is the people that are about to retire and currently retired.
Currently retired, right, yeah.
Do you help them figure out how to spend their money?
We help them figure out how to preserve their money, protect it, and make sure they've got enough income to last for the next 20, 30 years.
Yeah. Got to think that's probably the biggest concern with people these days is the holy grail is I don't want to outlive my money.
We hear that all the time, all the time, yeah.
Those commercials terrify me. That one with that famous actor, and he asks people, how long do you think your money's going to last? And they walk with a piece of string out.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Oh, why am I getting targeted for this ad? It's stressing me out.
Yeah.
So how do you attract your clients?
Well, we get our share of referrals, but the majority of our clients come from the seminars we give. We give financial seminars, maybe 2 to 4 a month. The general public, we hold them at restaurants in the in the Pennsylvania, South Jersey, maybe Delaware area, and that's how we get most of our clients, from the seminars we give.
Well, how do people find out about the seminars?
We send out direct mail, and to a given area, and they'll come to our seminar if they respond, if they want to be there. We start at 5:30. When we do give them, usually on a Tuesday or a Wednesday evening. Seminar itself will last maybe an hour or so, and then after the seminar is over, we give them a meal. We feed them because they're hungry by then.
Right.
Stress eating.
Yeah. And that's how we get most of our clients. Yes, that's what we've been doing for years.
What does your typical client profile look like?
Typical client we work with is somebody in their, I would say, between age around 58 to age 70, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
Some of the people that attend our seminars are still working, so they'll come after work. But they're maybe going to work for another few years and then they'll retire. Some people come to our seminars that are already retired. They've been retired for a few years at that point. So it's a mix, really. It's a combination of both.
Are these people that already have financial planners?
A lot of them do, yeah. A lot of them already have financial advisors already, yeah. Not all of them do, but a lot of them do, yeah.
Is there a certain area that you concentrate on in particular? I mean,
we do a lot of income planning. I see that's a big concern for a lot of people. Am I going to have enough income coming in when I retire? Because honestly, a lot of folks don't have pensions today.
Right.
I think pensions, for the most part, were a thing of the past.
Right.
Even though some do have pensions, they're not a lot, really. So people are concerned about, how do I have enough income to last my entire retired life? Because I tell a lot of people, without income, there is no retirement. Right. So we do a lot of income planning in my practice. Yeah.
Well, so some of the areas, so you focus on income, so you must come up with avenues to help duplicate a paycheck then, I guess.
We do. It's funny. When I give my programs, and I have a whole section on income planning, and I tell people what you need to do is think about income as a three-legged stool, where there are three legs to, let's say, a kitchen stool. The first leg is Social Security. Second leg would be a pension if you're lucky enough to have it.
Right.
And the third stool would be your money, the money you have saved, that kind of thing. But if there's no pension from your former employer, then you have to go to your money and create that third leg, that pension leg, and that's what we do.
Social Security?
Well, Social Security is is going to be there for people. That's always the first leg that's always there. But you also, if you're lucky enough to have a pension from your employer, that's great. And then you also have your savings and investments. But if you don't have that pension from your former employer, you have to create that pension. And how you do it is you go to the other leg, your savings investments, and you create a pension from that leg. And now you have the three legs of the stool that create your overall, income source in retirement. Your three-legged stool.
Do you give people tough love and tell them they need to go work
That's a
at
great
the
question.
supermarket, or?
No, well, most people don't want to work in retirement.
Right.
They don't want to have to work. But if their income is not sufficient, they really have no choice sometimes. So, hopefully, they've lived below their means up to that point, and they just want to have a nice retirement. If they want to go back to work part-time, that's fine. If they want to, they don't want to have to do that, though.
Right.
So that's why things like income planning is so crucial.
What are some of the biggest challenges that if someone's overlooking to come into retirement?
I think one of the biggest challenges I see is a mindset shift. In other words,
Yeah.
very often when people come into us, they'll bring their statements from their advisors or wherever, and what we find often is that people, even though they might have been retired for a few years at that point, they're still investing as if they're still working and still earning that paycheck.
Right.
And very often that's not the best way to go.
What do you mean by that? They're
Well, in other
still
words,
investing.
Well, in other words, when you're working and you're earning a paycheck, and you've got a few years to go before you retire, or 10 or 20 years even, you can take a little more risk with your money. So you can invest in the market. You don't need your money from your savings for a while.
Right.
But as you approach retirement, and certainly when you're in retirement, the conventional wisdom is you should become a little more conservative when it comes to investing your money. But oftentimes what we see is people are still investing all their money in the stock market, very risky things. And, I ask my, my seminar attendees, I say, how many of you have been through the crash of 2008? And everybody raised their hand. How many of you lost money during that time? Everybody raises their hand. Right? How many of you have taken steps to protect your money in case that happens again? And not many people have raised their hand at that point. So they don't want to go through that again. They don't want a hole to dig out of like they did before, and yet they still haven't taken steps to protect their money in case that does happen again.
How can they protect it? Is there avenues to protect it then?
Sure, there's a lot of conservative types of investments out there, but the problem is a lot of advisors don't expose their clients to alternative types of investments that are safer investments, really. And that's a problem I see with a lot of advisors. They're not really exposing their clients to other things short of stocks, bonds, mutual funds,
Right.
That kind of thing.
So the money that you have in your retirement fund, do you have a recommended percentage that people pull each year?
Pull out of their portfolio?
Yeah, that they're spending. They're kind of paying themselves a paycheck from their retirement fund.
Well, that really depends on their situation. It depends on really what their income needs are.
Right.
Some people would need to pull more money out of their portfolio than others. Some people have a pension from where they used to work, and the pension with their Social Security is more than enough. So they don't have to pull that much at that point, but some people do have to. It depends on what their expense structure is. It depends on a lot of things like that, really. So that's a personal decision as far as how much to pull out.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I think probably. I've heard. There's all kinds of jargon in the industry on what's safe amount to pull out, and I agree with you. It seems like everybody's different. It's not a one size fits all.
It's not a one size fits all. Right. It used to be where if you pulled out 4% of your portfolio, you were pretty safe. You probably wouldn't run out of money. But that's not so true anymore. It's not.
How long are people living past retirement these days, and what is the average age people are managing to retire?
I have people that are retired at age 60. Some are retiring 65 to 68. I have a few clients that are still working in their 70 and older. So, but it just depends on the person. But I would say most of the time, people in their mid to late 60s are already retired at that point. That's usually what I see.
How about? I know this is a tough question, but how far do you have to plan to? Longevity side of things.
It's a good question. People are living longer, as everybody knows. So, what we try to do is when we're developing an income plan for clients, we want to make sure that income is going to last as long as they do, no matter how long they live. So you can live to 150. You need to have an income stream that's going to last to 150. Not that anybody's going to live that long, but
I don't want to see me at 150.
But you know what I mean.
Call me.
Right. You know, it's got to be a forever income stream. You know, because that's what a pension is, really. I mean, a pension is a lifetime income. Social Security hopefully will be a lifetime income, and the money you create, or I'm sorry, the pension you create from your money rather, should also be a lifetime income. And you put all those sources together, and you should have a nice retirement.
So if you're divorced and you've gone through a program with David over here, do you negotiate Social Security benefits to your spouse? Like if I didn't work and my husband was working and we got divorced, I don't have a Social Security built up. I never worked. Do I get some of his money?
Well, that depends on really how
My
your
attorney?
divorce, how your attorney structure your divorce settlement. That's something we don't really get involved with.
Okay.
That's more of a question he would probably be able to answer better than I would, or a lawyer for sure.
If you're married 10 years, you have access to half of your spouse's Social Security.
If you get divorced.
Yeah, you have to be married 10 years.
What if they die?
If they die,
That's a good question.
I'm not sure how long. I think you have to be married. You know, if you're married and they die before 10 years, you are entitled to their.
I'm just going to take some notes for planning.
Yeah, at retirement age, not immediately.
Yeah, you know, that's right, because I've got some clients who were married for a few years to somebody, and that person did die, and they are eligible to collect some of that person's Social Security, and some are waiting to be a certain age, and some are already doing it. So he's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen that.
So, are you optimistic about the economy? That's a $100,000 question, I guess, huh?
You know, at this point, I'm going to have to say not really. And the reason I say that is because until we get politicians in Washington that are going to get serious about addressing the debt and entitlement reform and things like that, I don't think the economy is really going to do well until these things are addressed. I just don't believe so, because the debt is just so large. However, if we do get people in office that really take it seriously and try to pay down the debt, then perhaps the economy will do better, and then I'll be more optimistic. But at this point, right now, I just don't see it from either party, really.
What about the stock market?
Well, the stock market kind of goes hand in hand with the economy. You can manipulate the stock market through certain tools, like the Fed has. Federal Reserve can print money like they did not too long ago, and that propped up the stock market for a while. So you can affect the stock market using certain tools, but overall it is tied to the economy, not only our economy, but the economies around the world. And right now, there's really no economy doing great. So I'll give you the same answer as far as the stock market goes. I don't see long-term, unless problems are addressed, the stock market doing well long-term, really. I just don't. And I know that's a pessimistic view, but I think it's a realistic view.
Do either one of you think there's a country that's doing a better job than us about retirement and providing for seniors?
Well, I mean, I don't believe it's up to the country really to provide for your retirement. Yes, we have Social Security, and that's fine, but it was never designed to be the only source of income in retirement.
Right.
So I don't think countries have that job to do so. I mean, if you're in a socialistic country, none of them are doing well. Right. Really. So.
Yeah, I'd say our standard of living is still pretty darn good in the United States.
Yeah.
And the one thing that, and I might not get the statistic exactly right, but Social Security, when it was developed, was only supposed to replace 23% of your income.
Right.
It was never supposed to be like a pension that covered like darn near all your living expenses. So, of course, it hasn't. You fast forward to today, and it's usually a decent chunk of.
It is.
From what I've seen of a person's income.
Retirement income,
right.
Yeah, it is. It's a big part of it. And a lot of folks, if they didn't have that Social Security check coming in, they would be in trouble. Really, they would be. So, yeah, I mean, it was never designed to be the main source of your income in retirement. That's why it's so important to make sure that as you approach retirement, you become more conservative and you look to your money and create, a separate source of income to supplement Social Security. And maybe it's to supplement a pension you may have coming in from a former employer.
Right.
And usually that's enough, to sustain you as long as your expenses are low.
So I know this is probably a question that can't be just answered yes, no, but what do you think about paying off a house and having a home as you approach retirement? I think for myself, I just want to pay off my place and know that at least I have a home regardless of what happens in the economy and the markets with my retirement.
Right. Look, I think if you can do that, I mean, it's great. It's nice to have a house free and clear when you're in your 50s or 60s or, whatever. I think a good way to do that would be to take out a 15-year mortgage, that's my opinion, and just pay a higher amount as long as it doesn't affect your lifestyle, because you'll pay it off so much sooner.
Right.
But, that's not the only way to go. But, yeah, that's a great thing. I mean, because that's a great asset to have.
Yeah.
What about reverse mortgages? I know, is that a bad thing? I know people who've done it.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad thing. If you need it, it's great, because for a lot of people, their house is the biggest asset they have, obviously. So if you can tap into the equity in your house through a reverse mortgage and stay in your house, which you're able to do for the most part, not have a payment to make every month, it's been a godsend to a lot of people. Yeah.
Do they kick you out of your house if you had you're still living 40 years later? You're approaching 150.
Approaching 150.
But you look good
Do
for
they
your
kick
age.
you out?
I don't believe they do, but you really need to understand it, because that's not my area of expertise. But just chatting with people that do reverse mortgages, you need to understand, because if it's a husband and wife living in there, and based on the ages and the mortgage they sign, you need to understand that, because when one person dies, I've heard that there can be some issues like that.
That's good to know.
So.
Yeah, and you have to be 62 years of age to even take one out. The older you are when you take out a reverse mortgage, if you do that, the more money you'll get, basically. But it can be expensive. The rates are a little higher, so that's something else you have to consider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to sell everything when I get to a certain age and move to an island somewhere.
Yeah.
We all do. Yeah. Yeah.
As one of my friends says, what is it? I'm going to sell popsicles on the beach.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I'll be
on the beach.
125. You'll be right around the corner.
Be 165.
You'll be selling the grape. I'll be selling orange. Any more last advice to someone who's considering retiring or who is retired?
I'd say if you haven't done so yet, get what I call portfolio stress tests. We do what we call portfolio stress tests. When people come in, they'll bring their statements, and we'll stress test it. And what that uncovers is the true level of risk they're taking in the portfolio, because a lot of folks think they're conservative when they're really not. So that's one thing. I would say also make sure you have a written plan to protect your money. In other words, how do you know that if the market crashes again, which eventually it will, because it always does, what is your written plan to protect yourself from that happening, so you don't have that hole to dig out of again? And I would say the third thing was have a written income plan as well.
Okay.
I think it's so important to know where your sources of income are. Have it written down so in 2 years, I'll create this stream of income, or I can tap into this stream of income, or 5 years or 10 years down the road, where is my income where is it going to be? Is my income stream going to keep up with inflation, like you mentioned earlier?
Okay.
So I think it's important.
Thank you. Thanks for answering that. So next week, join us again, and our guest will be William Suplee. He is from Structured Asset Management, and spoiler alert, he's going to talk about structured assets. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for being here today.
you.
Thank you.